Hi, friends. You are listening to the EntreEd Talk podcast, where we feature amazing educators and entrepreneurs showcasing how you can bring entrepreneurship into the classroom. We believe entrepreneurship is for everyone. I am your host, Toy Hirschman, and I am so glad you chose to join me on this journey. Let's go. Hello, and welcome back, friends, to another fun-filled episode of the EntreEd Talk podcast. I am so excited today to have Erik Pedersen and Amara Kniep here from NetWork Kansas back again, the dynamic duo. NetWork Kansas is devoted to the growth of entrepreneurship and small businesses throughout the state of Kansas. Their mission is to promote an entrepreneurial environment by providing a central portal that connects entrepreneurs and small business owners with the right resources, expertise, education, and economic resources when they are needed the most. And they partner with business development organizations and educational institutions to work with entrepreneurs and small business owners to help them succeed. And I will let them share more about that because I don't want to read any more of the bio. But welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad and thankful to have you both back.
Boy, thanks. We look forward to it. And as I heard you talk, I realized Amara and I need to shorten that bio. That gets a little long, so we'll work on that.
I like the guests to do the bio because it is way more authentic than when I read it. Yeah. And I've heard some feedback on that as well. So, so thank you, audience, for that, for letting me know. So we're just very excited. So why don't you guys, if we dive in, for those of you that didn't listen to the first podcast, I'll have you share just what NetWork Kansas does, how you reach out, and some of the really cool programs that you have going on, and also anything else that you want to share about yourself or NetWork Kansas.
Sure, happy to. Maybe I'll start and then Amara can take it from there. So the organization's been around about 16 years. I was here from day one, and Amara's been here, my goodness, probably almost a decade, I would guess, has been with us for a long time. We do several things. I won't kind of bore you with a lot of details, but we have a referral center that gets hundreds of calls a month from people that need help, and it's our job to connect them to the right resources in the state of Kansas. We have multiple loan programs that we can provide matching loans to businesses throughout the state. The one that Amara and I are involved with every day is our entrepreneurship community, which started about 11 years ago, I guess, 11 or 12 years ago. And in short, we work really hard to select communities that we think are ready to take a step forward with a kind of grow your own mentality. We recognize that recruitment and attraction is one of the legs of the stool for economic development. No, we don't begrudge it at all, but we think that there's probably more benefit to pursuing a grow your own mentality, an entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so that's kind of where we live. And so in short, what we do is we select communities every year. We selected our first 6 in 2007. There's now 66 across the state. We take some of the assets that we have, some of the loan funds, and we actually empower the community, and we let them have money that they can decide what businesses to loan it to. It's gap financing. It partners with bank loans. It's truly the end of the capital food chain, but it's needed money. And we tell a business, it's kind of or a community, it's kind of an if-then thing, Toy. If we're going to give you this money, then we'd like you to do some things. And those things are typically have a local leadership team that will meet regularly with one of our staff in person or on a Zoom and discuss strategic planning. Let's set goals. What do we want this ecosystem to do, to change, to look like? How do we adapt it and help it thrive? And oftentimes coming out of those strategic plans are, let's pursue programs. Let's pursue doing this. And this is kind of a nice, I guess, segue to Amara, because oftentimes when a community says, let's do this, our coach or our regional manager that's working with the community will come back to Amara and say, here's what they want to do. Let's figure out how to do it. And so, Amara, let me kind of hand that off to you at this point.
Yeah, thank you for that intro. That was very nice. Yes, so my job at NetWork Kansas is to oversee statewide programs. We have a suite of about 5 board certified programs, which are programs that are approved basically by our board for our e-communities to use grant funds towards. So these programs are focusing on entrepreneurship. And we've got a couple different ones that I'll just run through kind of high level. And then if you have any questions, I can go deeper on any of these. But our first program is called Makerspace Bootcamp, and that's we actually have one going on right now. I know Erik was there yesterday, and that's based in Independence, Kansas. There's a community college there that has a great Fab Lab, and we have a fantastic e-community partner there called Jim Carell, and he is dedicated to helping communities understand what it takes to start a makerspace and how to incorporate the entrepreneurial mindset in that. So that's the first one. We also send communities to a program called Destination Bootcamp in Colorado. It's led by John Shallard. He teaches businesses how to turn their storefronts into a destination business. So how to draw people in from beyond your immediate community. We also have Growing Rural Businesses, which is a program done by Wichita State University that is targeted towards existing businesses that are looking to grow or scale specifically in a rural environment. And so we've worked with them on that since about 2014. And it's a fantastic program that's been offered all across the state. And we also have the Ice House Entrepreneurial Mindset Program, which is in partnership with the Entrepreneurial Learning Initiative. And that program has been offered across Kansas as well in tons of different communities. And that is focusing on teaching the entrepreneurial mindset to people, how to see problems as opportunities and that kind of thing. So that's not just for existing businesses. That's really for anybody that is thinking about or wants to become an entrepreneur. And can also even be used in schools. We've seen some people using it in high schools and colleges, and can be a nice segue into our last program that I want to share about, which is the Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge. And that's a NetWork Kansas program that we created in 2013. It's a series every year, every academic year, of locally organized youth entrepreneurship competitions that culminates in a state championship. And that's been going for, I think this is the 9th year. And the first one, we started out real small, up in the northwest corner of our state, with 5 local competitions and 48 kids. And over the years, it has grown and grown to where, now we have the state championship. And last year we had 898 kids participate, even with COVID going on. So we were really happy with that result. The program teaches kids that entrepreneurship is a viable career path for them if that's what they want to do. And it does help them see problems as opportunities and kind of get that entrepreneurial mindset instilled. So those are the programs that I'm overseeing. And then also with that, with YEC, out of that came Venture Dash, which is a software platform that we've developed to help people run business competitions online. Basically, where you can do everything in one place. You've got a scoring system and you can get registrations and the judges can view the materials and all of those things. And so we launched that last year and I've been overseeing the growth of that as well.
Yes, and we are quite familiar with Venture Dash. We were able to use it for several of our competitions and will continue to. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource for any of y'all out there that are thinking about doing a pitch competition. This is the way to go because it makes things so much easier than having. I think on the last podcast we talked about Amara running around with boxes and boxes of paperwork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Really, really slick and very easy to use too. It doesn't take very long to get in there and figure out how it works. But
Thank you.
So cool. I didn't realize you guys were using the Ice House. We're also good friends with Gary Schoninger and
nice
his program. We actually have used it in schools and sent some teachers to that. It's a really great program for mindsets and
It is. We actually Toy Amara and I were able to be on a podcast with Gary just last week, in ELI one, which was really fun. But what's really neat about the Ice House entrepreneurial mindset and kind of the traction it's gained in Kansas, I may mess up these numbers, but I think I'm close. When we started kind of getting involved in Ice House, there was a little bit of a void of people to help teach it or facilitate it in Kansas. And Amara has really, really worked hard to do this and has accomplished great things. And I think that there are probably now that we know of, there's probably more, but just kind of in our world, I think there's like 10 or 12 people that we have played some kind of a small role in helping them become a licensed facilitator so they can now teach Ice House in their communities. So it has really taken off in Kansas, and we're excited about that. We're huge fans of the Entrepreneurial Mindset program.
Yeah, they do an incredible job of it. Entrepreneurial mindset is it's a weird thing to wrap your head around. Like we all are, we are all in it and all the time. And so we get it. But especially when I go and meet with teachers or people for the first time, it's kind of there's really no one definition. We know what it means, but it's a tough thing for someone that's kind of outside of the entrepreneurship space to wrap their head around. So
right, exactly.
I carried that book around for a while, reading it like wherever I could read it. And so many people asked me, what is that? What is that? Yeah. Well, let me tell you.
That's awesome.
But I'm excited. So I am curious how about the Makerspace Bootcamp. How does that happen? How does that run? Like what is the goal of that?
Well, so we actually, like I said, we have one going on right now, and it's a 2.5 day, 3-day boot camp that they put on at the actual Makerspace. So as I mentioned, Independence Community College is the one that has this Fab Lab. And Jim Carell is the director of the Fab Lab, and he also happens to be our e-community point person for Montgomery County, which is the county that Independence is located in. And so he, over the years, has really built up this Fab Lab into something incredible. It's got a ton of machines there. I've been there. I know Erik was just there yesterday. And it's really quite an amazing facility. And so he has a lot of deep connections with the local business community where entrepreneurs will come to the Fab Lab and use it for their business purposes. He has some people that make their actual products there, others that just make things like advertising materials. I know when I was there, he had an entrepreneur come in and talk about making his storefront sign there for like Main Street, where they have the big sign over the store. And then Jim also is really passionate about Ice House and including the entrepreneurial mindset in his outreach and education. So he does an Ice House class in the Fab Lab twice a year. So usually spring and fall, he'll have classes there. And he works in partnership with the college. So college students can take it and get college credit for it there. And so the whole goal of the boot camp is to bring in people from communities across Kansas. And I think it's even open to people outside of Kansas if they want to travel that far, and to show them what a Fab Lab is, because I know if you're not really familiar with the term, it's kind of like the entrepreneurial mindset. Somebody who's never heard of that is like, what is that? So it's kind of an overview of what it is, how it works, how it's run. He kind of dives deeply into the story of how it came to be and how you get the funding and how you would actually like set up a Fab Lab. He brings in entrepreneurs to talk about how they use it. He brings in past participants from the boot camp to talk about what they learned and how they went back and implemented it in their communities and what they're doing to work towards a makerspace in their own community. So really, it's supposed to be kind of like this all-inclusive look at makerspaces, how this one specifically works, success stories, and what you could do with it in your community, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's neat. We hear the reason I asked that is because the same thing is like you hear makerspace, but a lot of people don't really have an intuitive understanding of what is that. People just come and make stuff, or is there, but connecting it to the entrepreneurship and connecting. It's like, this is where you can come in and really start. Like, it's kind of almost like an incubator. That's just another word that trips people up.
Right, exactly.
But the idea that, you could have a startup idea, and this is one resource where this is where you could get your foot in the door and start making product. Or if you have something, start making your marketing materials to really get started at a very low to no cost, which is
right.
Yeah, and I know these numbers only because Amara coached me up yesterday, Toy, before I got there. But yesterday was the 8th one of these boot camps that Jim has put on, and Amara's description of it was perfect. Kind of a 101. Here's how you can become one in your community, or how you can do it. But she told me yesterday that to the nearest we can count, 22 of the communities we work with have gone through this boot camp with Jim. So there are 22 different rural communities in Kansas that have at least taken some step to try and duplicate what he's doing in Independence, which is a town of, I think, about 8,000 people. I may be off, but I think I'm close.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting yesterday was there's a lady who's just a rock star in our world, a lady named Leanne Seilers, the Economic Development Director in a community in Southwest Kansas, Hodgman County. She went to the boot camp, I don't know, a couple of years ago or something, I'm guessing, to start this process, and has been back a couple of times and was there yesterday. And so it's not this thing. I realized it as I listened to her engage with Jim and talk it through yesterday, that the ones that really get it, and Leanne absolutely gets it, it's not just, let me come here, listen to you, tell me how you did it here in Independence, and let me go back and try. She's continually coming back to learn, because Jim's continuing to evolve his own Fab Lab. And so it was just really cool to see how she is following his evolution. And so they're both kind of progressing down this path. And I think that, the winner for this is going to be Hodgman County when this makerspace evolves there, because of how, dedicated Leanne is to that. So it was just neat yesterday to see that happening.
Oh, that is so great. That is so great. I love that what you guys do and your mission, because you said grow your own, but it's kind of meta, because you're sort of doing a similar thing on a much bigger scale. But when we go into schools, we never go in with this idea that we have all the answers. We go in and we find out, what are your needs, and let's start from there, so that we're meeting them where they are and then helping them move to that next level. And I love that with your funding and with your community, the community structure that you have, that's what you're doing. You're going in and saying, like, what is this? What are the specific needs of this community? And then how can we help? And I think that that's such an important thing, because I bet every single one is completely different.
It is. And to that point, there are 4 e-community coaches, regional managers, and each one works with about 12.5 communities, give or take, around the state. And they do the strategic planning and the things I talked about a little bit ago. But because what you said is just right, Toy, each one of them is at a different place in their own path, their own journey. And so Amara has 5 or 6 or so really good programs that she just, talked to you about a little bit ago in this board certified program box. A lot of times where a community wants to go, what their focus is, doesn't quite fit with those, or maybe they've done one of them a couple of times. And so it's been kind of fun to watch Amara's evolution with the communities and our coaches, because they're having to be creative and say, what the community wants to really pursue is this. How do we create something that can fit that? And so it's taken an awful lot of, I said the word creativity, but I guess that's the right one. A lot of creativity from Amara and our coaches and the communities to find the right fit to best benefit their local business owners.
I love that. That's such a nice thing, because a lot of times you hear about organizations that just kind of like, I picture like kicking the door down, like, okay, we have the solution for you. And then the community's like, no.
Right.
Right.
So that's perfect. So I actually just wrote a unit yesterday on business startups, and we talk all the time about how like today's high schooler is tomorrow's startup. So I love, I was going to hit this youth entrepreneurship challenge. But I'd love for you to share more about the youth entrepreneurship challenge and just this idea of how you get some of this information to, besides just the challenge, but how younger people, whether high school or, early 20s, mid 20s, how you get this information of there are resources available to help you get started. And I don't think a lot of people know that. So I'd love for you to share about the challenge and then how you work with some of these young people so that they know that, if I decide to start a business for real or continue with my idea, there are these resources out there that I can tap into.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. So when we work with communities to implement YEC, usually it's the partner that implements it. So we work our e-communities, we have a point person, and it's usually either a chamber person or economic development director. And that person is the one that goes into the schools and works with the teacher and gets all of the logistics of the event set up. And we've been really blessed with just amazing partners that are super hands-on. So the vast majority of the time when they're going into the school, it's not like they just say to the teacher, here it is, now go do it, and then they leave. There's been a lot of collaboration, which has been really cool to see, where the economic development director will be hands-on in the classroom, talk to the kids about, entrepreneurship and the local resources available. So they kind of get to know this person and they know that they're the resource in their community to go to. And then they've done a really great job about bringing in local entrepreneurs to be guest speakers for the kids. So it kind of builds the kids' network to where they now know this person who came and presented in the classroom, and they know they can go and ask for advice. And they, even with judges, when they have people judging the events, it's entrepreneurs or bankers or somebody plugged into the business part of the community. So it's really, obviously the goal is to teach kids about entrepreneurship, but I think it really does a nice job of also building their networks and showing them what resources are available to them locally.
That is so great. We hear that time and time again. That's really where the success is. When you get the community collaborating with schools, that's where magic happens. And it's
right.
in both ways, because now you have folks in economic development and people that are in the community, and they're getting a really good picture of what's going on in the school system. And then,
right.
And then giving these kids this additional network and ability, and they're not afraid to approach some of these people to find out what they can do or where they could take this business. That's wonderful. All of our schools that have engaged their community, it's like, it's magic. It
yes.
really, really works. It helps out so many things.
Yeah, I agree.
So that is wonderful. Can you share a little more about, like, I know how it works, but with our audience, how does the contest work, and a little bit more about Venture Dash and how you're able to use that with the students?
Yeah. So in the YEC, the local contest works in that there's a standardized format that it follows, and then they also have some options to customize or tweak their event. So every event has to submit the kids have to submit a executive summary, which is 1 to 3 pages of a short, kind of like a mini business plan. It's not a full business plan, but it's a short summary of their business idea. And then they also have to give a formal presentation before a panel of judges. And that's kind of adaptive. They can do that, whether it's like standing up in front of a slideshow or whether it's in front of a trade show booth. They can kind of customize how they want to do that. And then some of our other events use optional components. So some of them do the trade show that I mentioned, which is like a tabletop display where they have kind of a visual aid to what their business is. And then some of them also do an elevator pitch where they give like a 2-minute pitch about their business. We have one community that actually had kids doing it like in an actual elevator. They had a big enough building where they could get on the elevator and go all the way down, and the kids would give their pitch. So fun things like that. They do have the ability to kind of tweak and customize their events. And then as far as Venture Dash goes, you sign up for Venture Dash, create your event in there, and you get access to a landing page where people it's basically a public facing page where people can go and find information about your event, and that's how they sign up. So Venture Dash works to gather registrations for the students, but teachers and judges also register accounts in there as well. You can add co-hosts if you want help, like you want additional people on your team to help manage the event, you can do that. And so everybody will sign up in the event, and the students can submit materials ahead of time. So for example, for our YEC stuff, they have to submit their executive summary in Venture Dash before the event deadline. And then it gets prejudged before the actual day of the competition. And so judges can enter scores in Venture Dash. You can either have them do like with the executive summary, they do it ahead of time, or they also, for live components, you just bring a laptop, or it even works on your phone, and they can enter scores while the students are presenting on there. So the system takes the scores and kind of tallies everything to project, the winners, and it shows up in a nice, neat little leaderboard that will show your results. And it also has a couple other features where it'll guide you through the whole process of planning an event. So when you log in and you're kind of setting everything up, there's a timeline with steps that we suggest taking based on our experience with planning competitions. So you've got the timeline feature in there to kind of guide you through. And then there's additional things in there as well, like you can send announcements and surveys and communicate with the entrepreneurs and judges and mentors.
Awesome. It really is a slick portal. It's like, it just makes the whole process a lot easier. And
good.
We're about to launch, we're going to use Venture Dash. We're about to launch our 7-state kind of big competition. So
it's exciting.
Folks, get ready for that announcement. It's coming. If you're in one of our grant funded states, you will be able to participate in that. And you can participate in if you're not too, but we are able to do some more things with funding for some of our grant funded states. But we appreciate
you using it a lot. And I'm really happy to hear what you said and the feedback we get from our communities, because it was for people that want to go now, like I think both Amara and I are. We probably have to give a little credit to the vendor. We used a local entrepreneurial company in Wichita called Moonbase Labs, the developer, because they kept forcing us to go slow and to do some, customer validation and make sure this is what they want and keep going. And we kind of kept wanting to flip the switch. Let's go. The end result is what you said and the feedback we're getting. This is a really, really good product. So I'm glad they held us to task and caused us to go that route. But if I could follow up your question and let Amara expand on something, please, Toy. One of the highlights of the Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge is the way that it rolls up into the state championship in our partnership with Kansas State University that we've had for 4 or 5 years now. I think that's really the kind of the fun highlight that the students lead up to. And even the way that day has evolved to what it looks like now is something that they just they love. And so Amara, if you wouldn't mind maybe sharing that, because you certainly share that better than I do. So let me hand it to you.
Right. So share about like the format of state and what happens there.
Yeah, and the winners of the locals that kind of feed up to it. And
perfect.
Yeah.
So we've got a really great partnership with K-State University, Kansas State. They've done a fantastic job over the past years of hosting the Kansas Entrepreneurship Challenge, which is the state championship. And so in our partnership with them, the first place winner of each local YEC event automatically gets a spot at KEC at the state championship. And then they also select about 15 what they call wild card entries. So like an extra 15 people to go to state. So usually ends up being around 60-ish teams. And last year it was, even though it was virtual, we still had about the 60 teams participate. So it's just been fantastic. It's a great day with a lot of energy. I think the kids absolutely love participating in it. And then K-State's done a nice job of kind of tweaking the format over the years to make sure that the kids are getting the most out of it that they can. So what we ended up with last year is previously they had divisions for the state championship where I think it was like ag, tech, existing business, and then a miscellaneous kind of division. And they would have everybody present. The kids would come and they would do one mock boardroom, which is where they would go in. The judges had received their executive summary ahead of time. And so then they came in, they did a short presentation, and then they basically exchanged a Q&A with the judges like they were in a boardroom, basically. So, and that even had evolved over the years to where, you know, very back in the beginning, they were just doing an elevator pitch and then they're doing mock boardroom. So now what we've got is the kids, there are no divisions because with the division kind of way that it was set up is there would be, you know, one grand champion in each division and you had 4 people getting prizes. And so they kind of wanted to come up with a way to distribute the prize money more evenly. So now what we've ended up with is no divisions. And now the kids have a chance to do multiple mock boardrooms. So they get more interaction with judges, which means more mentorship, more feedback. And instead of having just like a first, second, third place winner, what they've done now is that the scoring system is basically, it was designed more for them to compete against themselves, basically. So it's more like a high school, like music festival, you know, where they go and they get like a rating where it's like a 1, 2, or 3. So I think, I can't remember the exact titles of the ratings, but it was like superior, excellent, and I forget what the third one was. But so now that the kids have the rating system, the prize money is a lot more spread out between everyone, which means everybody has a more of a reward for going to state, which I think was great insight on K-State's part because these kids, all 60 of them, were the best in the state. So they kind of get a little bit more of a reward for being able to make it that far. And so how it transpired last year is, you know, we had the 60 kids that all went to state and then got narrowed down to a finalist round, which I think had about 11 businesses. And then, so those people got to do their mock boardroom again. And since obviously because of COVID, you know, everything was virtual last year. So normally this would have been in person, but last year, everybody submitted their summary. Then 11 people went on to a mock boardroom final round, which was live via Zoom. And then they got their ratings based on that. And I think we ended up with, you know, everybody got some prize money for going to state. The 11 that made it to the finalist round got even more. And then I think they ended up with 2 that earned a superior rating that got the highest tier of prize money as well. So the evolution of what the state championship day has looked like has changed a lot over the years, but I think it's all for the better. And K-State's done a really good job of evolving that.
That's awesome. I like that there's spread around a little bit, spread the wealth a little bit more, because that's a lot of work on the students' part to go through that whole process. And it's
right.
So fun, but it's also a lot of things that they have to get together. And then that's kind of scary too, to present when, you know, in front of people that are judging you. It's
right. Exactly.
Right. What we really like, and Amara said it very well, what we really like is that the students are just competing against themselves. If they do well in displaying their entrepreneurial skills that day and answering the questions, et cetera, and get a superior rating. There could be 2, as there were last year, or there could be 7. They're only competing against themselves. And we think that's awesome. I mean, that gives a coffee shop restaurant idea on a level playing field with a drone idea. They're all just competing against themselves for the day. And we really like that about the state competition.
I think that's so great, because you're not getting, like you said, with the divisions, like you're not getting everyone's excited because, tech is so sexy, but then
Sure.
But you've got kids that are in this, like, doing things in ag that are so important that I love that it's spread out like that to give everybody a fair shot. I'm curious to get your opinion on this. We deal a lot in Appalachia and with a lot of rural communities. And so you guys do as well. So I'm really curious, what do you feel is the importance of entrepreneurship? Now, we all think it's important for everybody, obviously, but the unique importance of entrepreneurship in small rural communities.
I think especially, I'm going to kind of start with YEC because we deal with that a lot. Most of the communities that we work with are rural, a lot of them very, very rural. And so I think this is a hugely relevant issue for youth, especially because oftentimes you see a lot of kids thinking that they need to move away to a bigger town or city in order to be successful. And even in some of our larger cities in Kansas, like I know here in Wichita, there are kids that think they need to go to Kansas City or some bigger city in order to be successful. And so one of the big goals of YEC is to teach kids not only that entrepreneurship is a viable career path for them and that it's doable, but it's also something that can be done in their own community, in their hometown, and that they don't have to move away in order to be successful. And I think that's something that they really try to accomplish by bringing in the guest speakers that are local entrepreneurs, because not only, it's one thing to just tell them you can do this in your town, and then who knows whether or not they're really going to believe you saying that. But then it's another thing to actually bring in people who are doing it in their town and to show them how it's done. And I think it's very eye-opening for the kids in that manner.
I love that. It's so true, because a lot of times you have entrepreneurs all around you, but nobody thinks about that. A lot of times, especially kids, you're like, well, the doctor that opened a practice, like, she's an entrepreneur. This
right,
your parents that owns a restaurant, that person's an entrepreneur. But you don't really think about that, because you think entrepreneurship and you think like Zuckerberg.
Exactly.
No, you're right.
It's very.
Toy, let me, if you don't mind, let me kind of switch just a bit, because we respect the heck out of the work that you and EntreEd does, and we really love being close partners with you guys. Amara said it wonderfully. Not a lot I would add to that. What are your thoughts on that very topic? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
Oh, wow. Just flip the table on me.
You'll roll with the punches just fine. I know.
We talk a lot about that, especially in rural communities, with this idea of the brain drain, where kids think I have to get, I live in one too. I live in rural Maryland, and kids think I have to get out of here in order to be successful. And a lot of kids, when you're young, a lot of kids want to get out, maybe not even so much for the success, they just want to experience other things when you've grown up in a rural community. But a lot of them want to stay and or want to go somewhere and come back, and giving them that option of entrepreneurship is I think the most valuable thing you can do, because you teach us, even introduce a young person to entrepreneurship, that's a career field that they have access to forever. And, you don't need some special certification. You don't need to go back to college or go to college at all for, that is an available career option for you all the time. And I think that's really, really impactful in rural communities where you just don't see, kids aren't seeing as much of that kind of entrepreneurial activity. So when you can bring in real people that students can identify with, and that's so powerful. Like, okay, well, yeah, I can I can do that too. I can start a restaurant. I could start a print shop. I can stay and live wherever I want now and start a business online, which is something that's not new, but is newer and something that, that resonates with students a lot more than some other things sometimes. And you don't really need a whole lot of capital to get that started. So I love this. I love the idea of bringing entrepreneurship into rural communities and showing people that it's totally possible. I've met with a lot of students, and a lot of times they're like, oh no, it never even dawned on them that was an option for them. And it's so great when you see that light bulb going, oh wait, I do have some good ideas. Maybe I can do something with this.
Right. And I think as we've watched this, I think what you said is exactly right, that both Toy and Amara, as we've watched this, I think some of those students also begin to look at it slightly differently and not just, and I think some of our communities that we work with get credit for making this a part of their scoring, if you will, on the YEC event. The students begin to look at not just, here's my idea, but what is a needed thing in my community? Do we need a third of whatever this is? But here we have a void of this particular business, and that is a passion of mine. So maybe I will do my project or write my executive summary around this because I see in my community we need this. So I think that exposure to entrepreneurship and the kind of the maturation of what you guys are doing and what we're doing begins to cause those people to look for the needs in their community as well. And I think that's kind of fun for us to watch happen.
It's a beautiful thing to see a lot too, when we work with students. More than I ever expected, that exact thing is happening. More like, I don't remember being a 14-year-old with a passion to help my community. I just wanted to make money, Yeah. we find, all the time that these students are talking about these real needs in their community, like different food banks. We have a lot of food deserts where near me, and just different amazing things that are, it's beautiful, really. It's heartwarming to see, because they are starting to turn it towards their local community. What are our needs? What are we missing here that could help this community? And I never, getting started with this work, oh boy, it was a long time ago now, but I'd never thought that that's what I would see. I thought I'd see a lot of like t-shirt businesses, a lot of, restaurant ideas, which is still, they're still great, but it's just really heartwarming to see these students thinking about the bigger problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Help other people. So it's so true.
Well, good. Well, thanks for answering the question. I learned something. Thank you.
So I'm curious, as we start to wrap up, what advice might you give to someone who is sitting there maybe right now and going, have an idea, but I really don't know how to get started. And let's say that person is in Kansas. What do I do? What do I do next? I have this great idea for a product. Where do I go?
Well, I'll jump in on that. One of the things I think we have found real clearly is that, and really, let's go back to the real reason, I think, or one of the real reasons NetWork Kansas was created 16 years ago. There really are a lot of smart, good, talented people across the state, and Kansas is probably no different than the other 49, but I'll speak to Kansas. We have a ton of great people that are waiting there to help you, whether they be economic development professionals or small business development centers or commerce representatives, you name it. The list goes on and on. And you just have to do a little bit of looking to find them. I mean, that's part of the challenge, I guess, of living in a rural community. There's two challenges in my mind. In an urban community, there's a lot of resources, but there's a lot of noise a lot of times. You don't know kind of how to figure it out. In a rural community, there's maybe not quite the noise, but the resources aren't as present. So you have to do a little bit of looking for them, if you will. Obviously, as we've all become really accustomed to Zoom over the last 18 months, even if they're in the next county, they're waiting to help you with your business plan or your idea. you don't have to travel to them likely. You can do just what the three of us are doing now. So my long-winded answer, Toy, is there's a lot of really good people. Reach out and get some help from them, because that's their job to help you.
I love that that's a big part of your work, that you're helping to get that information out to people, because it's kind of hidden in a mystery, you know, like it seems so big when you think about starting a business, but it really is, if you know where to go, if you can find those resources, that's a great leg up for somebody. So I'm excited that you guys do that. It's really important work.
Thank you.
But so, speaking of your important work, how can folks find you if they want to learn more about NetWork Kansas or be involved in any of your programs? It looked like some of your classes were available virtually too. And I looked at your list. It's a pretty extensive list of different classes and things that people can be part of. So can you share with us how do we find you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you're online and looking for us, you can go to networkkansas.com. And if you're interested in Venture Dash, it's a separate site. It's goventuredash.com. On NetWork Kansas site, we have a blog that actually features a lot of success stories for our different programs. So I would definitely suggest checking that out. And then we're also on social media. So NetWork Kansas is on Twitter and Facebook. We also have an e-communities page for Twitter and Facebook, and then Venture Dash pages as well.
Awesome. Well, everybody, you need to check these folks out. They're really doing amazing work, and you don't have to be in Kansas to check them out. You can check them out from anywhere. So thank you guys both so much for being on the podcast again. We're very excited, and I hope that everybody can access what you're doing and get to know you as well, because we enjoy you guys, and this partnership has been wonderful.
Thank you, Toy.
So much.
You guys a lot, and we really appreciate this. Amara and I enjoy the heck out of it too. So this has been fun. Thanks for everything you do as well.
I'm just excited you decided to put up with me twice.
Well,
you can't get
Amara
rid
and I are.
now.
Hey, we're looking forward to the third time. So don't.
All right.
Yeah, you're not done with us yet, I hope. Thank you.
I'm so glad about that. So thank you guys so much, and I'll look forward to our next one.
Sounds great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Toy.